Julian,
Yes.
thanks for joining me.
Yes, of course.
Pleasure to have you. I love chatting with you.
Yes. Always happy to be here.
Thank you. I want to talk to you about having clarity of what you are offering as a business, as a service.
Yeah.
I want to talk about, I actually have some notes here.
Oh, good.
It's, clarity on what you're offering, clarity on pricing, positioning, not using vague language, and not we do everything under the sun. I'll speak from my business just as an overview. I've been doing this since 2012. I've heard every story under the sun, good, bad, indifferent. And there's in my opinion, one of the banes of the industry in web design, digital marketing is this idea that we do absolutely everything inside of the digital marketing space,
right?
I'm a designer, a developer, a host, an SEO, a social media manager, a videographer, a drone pilot. Like, what are you really, right? What are you really? And I go to these websites and I see stuff and competitors and things. And I would say that generally there's too broad of an offer. What do you think about from your perspective?
I mean, I feel very compelled by this because I also feel like I do it, and it's kind of a good eye-opener that I should probably stop.
Do you, though?
I do. You know, when I have clients consult with me, I always like kind of saying that verbiage where I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of like this one-stop shop, and I wanted to do all the things, and I love all the things.
But one-stop shop in midwifery, in doula, in that, not in cooking
like
meals for you or something totally irrelevant.
Well,
Okay.
But no, essentially it's exhausting to kind of put yourself out there as you do everything, and you will continue to do everything throughout the entirety of that relationship with the client, right?
So you'll do everything. That also means you're available at any time, and right, that's a big problem. How can you possibly be available at all times? You have a personal life, a family, a this, a whatever, right? Like a business, other clients.
It's very hard in this field to put that out there and make those kind of those sort of restraints and those sort of boundaries. And I'm getting so much better.
Of course, you have to.
So much better, but I think that in the birth field, and a lot of obstetricians fall under this a little bit more than kind of like your midwives and your doulas, because they take on such a heavy clientele that I've noticed, even by having my own clients, there's anxiety and there's nervousness when they're not on call or they're not available, right? But kind of in the back of my head, and having done this for a really long time, I'm like, they need that too. They need that. But it's really hard for those clients to kind of make that agreeing statement that, okay, I understand. So does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And you're talking about real serious stuff too. It's not an emergency in my case, more than likely. It could very well be an emergency in your case.
Right.
So that's tough to disconnect yourself. But not to get into a discussion on healthcare and medical stuff, but you can't even reach the doctor. You can't even reach anything. I get where you fill a very significant void, and it's totally different than the, let's call it medical establishment.
Right.
But I just cannot be all things to all people. And I need to be focused on the things in which I can execute well. If someone comes to me today and says, Alex, I have this really difficult task for you, but if it fits specifically within what we do, I can execute it very well and very quickly. Somebody might come to me with something that is perceived as less difficult, but I don't have the resources for it. We're not trained on it. We don't have processes for it, right? It might be a total disaster, right? I just should not be doing it. And I've gotten really serious with myself on that over the last few years to, ensure that I'm attempting at the very least to do the highest and best use of my time, right? And just to know when not to say yes.
Yep,
To say, I just can't, right? So I think it's Michael said something interesting earlier today. He's like, look, Alex, we live in Las Vegas, 110 degrees outside right now. There's a snowboard shop here in town. There's literally people buying snowboard stuff in Las Vegas. There's enough business for that imaginary shop we're talking about to be open and functioning and working.
Right.
And what do I mean by that? They know what they do. They do this one particular thing. And there's enough business for them in this town for them to stay open. So my point obviously here is that I need to be super clear on hey, this is the stuff I do. I get calls all the time for people that say, I need this or that and the other. I say, look, that sounds awesome, but I'm not your guy. I'm sorry.
Right,
I'm just
right.
not. If I was you, I would do the following, right? But I'm just not capable of doing that.
Right.
Nor should I be. It's not a good use. I always like this line. I'm not learning on your dime. I'm not saying, look, in life, it's always a learning experience. I always take away something from a project, even if I've done it many, many times. But I don't want you to be paying me to learn on your dime, right?
Yeah.
And I'm really, it's been of high importance to me in the last years, for sure.
I think what's so interesting is hearing you make those comments. You keep adding in like in the last years, like recently through experience.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's the biggest indicator of someone who's been doing something a really long time and somebody who hasn't, because I feel like when you haven't, that need to like get that clientele and to say yes is so prominent versus you've been doing this a while. You're not messing around anymore. Like you've set these boundaries. You know what you're good at. You know what you can handle, what you can juggle, and what can thrive and do really well, because your work is going to be an outpour of, how your business is going to be perceived, right? So essentially, I think that's so important. And that's one of the most beautiful things about hiring a professional is I feel like the experience factor. I understand that everyone has to start from somewhere, and that's really lovely.
And I respect that.
And people have to mesh with that. But sometimes the experience is just so wonderful to have and to know, that's a big aspect of our business too.
Julian, I'm the surgeon.
Yeah.
Okay. You're coming to me because I've done the surgery countless times.
Right.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
God forbid you needed a surgery.
Okay.
Do you want the surgeon that did it 1,000 times, or do you want the one that's still learning?
You want the one that's done it 1,000 times.
So ask me the same question from your perspective.
Oh my gosh.
Do I want this?
Yeah.
Do I want the midwife or doula that is just trying this out, or do I want the one that has seen every nightmare, crazy story, and like?
And in my business too, that's one of the number one questions that I get asked is how many births have you attended?
Sure.
Right? They want to know. If it's been 5 or 10, then that's great. But you know what? Your price should reflect that.
Price should reflect that. Maybe you should be like, under somebody in there for a period.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you can legitimately say I've attended 100 or whatever.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And in that case, it changes with experience. And, I feel like that the community kind of has to grasp that.
I appreciate you saying that, because the truth is, yes, I have been doing this for a significant amount of time. And again, I respect the freelance. I'm taking this on. I need to take on something that maybe I shouldn't. I understand that pressure. I was there years ago. I started this in 2012. I knew nothing, zero. I still know nothing, but I got a little bit more experience now. That's my kind of like way of looking at stuff.
Yeah.
It's always time to learn, right? But in the beginning as a freelancer, it's like, hey, I need to make whatever possible sale I can to float the business and to keep things going.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's the opposite for me. It's I cannot afford to take on something that that doesn't fit within my service, or it just becomes a time suck. Terrible waste. And it's not just for me, but for the client too. What do they need it for, right?
Absolutely.
Better to do them a favor and say, I'm not the right person for you. Here's what I suggest.
Right.
And I do that a lot. Any other point that you think is important to make on this point? I just think, what can I say? Be true to who you are.
Right.
Don't try to be all things to all people. Get super clear on, I'm really good at the following. Be able to articulate. Somebody once said, I don't know who this was, that someone said something once, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it. So be able to explain simply what it is that you do, right? Yeah.
I think that's really valid. I think that's great.
Thank you.
And I think people will respect that.
I hope so. What's the thing? Again, be who you are. Everybody else is taken. And if what I say resonates, great, call me. If it doesn't, I wish you the best. It's not the right fit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're saving everyone the heartache, everyone involved.
The most important thing that I have is my time. The most important. I have to respect it.
You do.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.